Hello, my name is Kasper Hornbæk, and I will present an interview study of what makes smartphone applications special to their users. Earlier work has intensely tried to understand how smartphones are used and how users experience their qualities. This has been going on for more than 15 years. For instance, researchers have used Belk's theory of extension of the self to study smartphone use. According to Belk, people incorporate possessions into their concept of self. So when we apply this to smartphones, we might ask phone users about such incorporation and focus on it in our analysis. Lukov and colleagues saw smartphone apps as a source of meaning. They asked participants whether they spent their time on something meaningful and proceeded to analyze the data according to this concept of meaningfulness. Therefore, the frameworks that drive research on smartphones shape the questions we ask of participants in empirical studies, and they shape also how we analyze the findings. We propose to use this book by Csikszentmihalyi and Rochberg-Halton as an inspiration for an alternative framework for studying smartphone use. So Csikszentmihalyi and Rochberg-Halton studied the things people have in their homes. They used a semi-structured interview protocol to gather information on what makes things special to participants and which active choices those participants have made about the things that they furnish their homes with. Then they used the results to discuss the mechanisms of how people shape their home, for instance, the tension between the need to differentiate yourself from others while integrating socially, but also how people can direct their energy and their pursuits by organizing their home in a particular manner. They also emphasized how things influence the self and the other way around. We argued that this framework may advance our understanding of smartphones in three ways. First, it conceptualizes smartphone use as a series of active choices, similar to how a person decides to furnish a home. This complements frameworks that focus on a snapshot of smartphone use, or view users as passive organisms that are addicted to smartphones. Second, it focuses on the value of smartphones as personally perceived, defined in whatever way participants find important. So this offers an alternative to fixed conceptions of the importance of smartphones, for instance, as being meaningful. Third, the approach locates the app as a central unit of analysis, because that is what people can install, delete, move and furnish their smartphones with. So this avoids the issues surrounding studying smartphone use as an individual whole and not focused on apps. Our interview process was inspired by Csikszentmihalyi and Rochberg-Halton's process and by the general interview guidelines for semi-structured interviews. We prepared an interview guide consisting of 28 questions among 4 groups. The most important of these groups and the central part of the interview concerned special apps, the 4th group of questions. We asked, what are the apps on your smartphone that's special to you? Why is this app special to you? And what do all of your special apps taken as a whole mean to you? This focus on spatial aims to derive the categories about smartphones and smartphone qualities from data in an open-ended manner rather than prescribing them top-down. We recruited 60 individuals aged 21 to 41 years on Prolific to answer these questions. On average, the interviews lasted 39 minutes. Somewhat unusually, the interview questions and the full transcripts of the interviews are available on Open Science Foundation. The analysis of the interview started immediately after each interview. At that time, the interviewer generated initial codes. In addition, they took notes about prominent themes, ideas, or tensions from the interview. Together, the authors did a thematic analysis of all the interviews following the approach of Braun and Clark. We carried out the 6 steps of thematic analysis over a period of 12 months, with frequent meetings among all of the authors. In these meetings, we first discussed and analyzed in depth 6 of the interviews, which we all coded and analyzed. The remaining interviews were coded and discussed by at least 2 of the authors. Next, I'll present the 5 themes that we constructed from this analysis and refer you to the paper for more detail. The first theme suggests that one of the most common reasons why apps were special was that they provided ways to revisit memories from the past. 80% of participants in one way or the other mentioned this. So this is not only a useful external memory tool, but it also helps them to regulate mood, emotions, and motivational states. So remembering and reliving obviously relate to ordinary camera and photo apps, but participants also used purpose-built apps to ponder the past. Participant 33 gave an example of how their messaging apps were special because it allowed them to go back over past conversations. So this person mentioned how they might actually go back to and read earlier communications to kind of reflect on their past. A more surprising example of apps that were found to be special for this reason were traveling and transportation apps. On the slide, participant 49 explains how the Flixbus app was special to him because it helped him remember past travels. Even without engaging with any of an app's functionality, it could be found special for reasons due to memory and wanting to relive the past. For instance, participant 57 kept the dating application through which they have met their partner, and P1, as indicated by the quote on the slide, kept a transportation app from their hometown. That app didn't work anymore in participant 1's new location, but they still checked the app and had memories of home. So somewhat surprisingly, people can find apps special that don't work or that they cannot use anymore. 38 of 60 participants mentioned the second theme, apps that they found special because they allowed participants to connect or communicate with other people. In that way, participants could connect with remote friends or family and with communities of people that shared interests with them that they would never have met in real life. Participant 48, for instance, said the following about Discord. That was a music community that would serve like a songwriting challenge and where you could work with other musicians. So I was into that for a while. The specific apps used for social connectivity often changed over time, for instance, as participants had aged. So participant 60 mentioned Snapchat as a special app that they had somehow outgrown. Some participants discussed how apps could be used to create particular impressions on other people. Participant 62, for instance, gave an example of Instagram in the quote on the slide for this use. However, these uses, in particular of social media to show off a desirable identity to others, were mentioned very rarely. We found them only in 4 participants out of 60. Participants often found the apps special because they supported their personal interests, goals or hobbies. 63% of participants mentioned something along those lines. So for instance, participant 9 emphasized how their life can be found in every single of their apps. So in this way, special apps become intimately connected with participants' self-image because they reflect the personally valued activities that made up the life of participants. Similarly, participants mentioned that deleting or stopping to use an app sometimes reflected active choices about how apps could help or hinder them become the person they wanted to be. There's a quote on the slide about a person who deletes Facebook as kind of a maturing process. The fourth theme emphasizes how special apps could be both associated with positive emotions, but also many participants could simultaneously articulate surprisingly complex relationships with the apps. That happened for about a fourth of the participants. So these apps would be special not because of their features, but rather in spite of their features. So for instance, some of the apps that were mentioned as special had obviously poor usability. So participant 56, for instance, noted that his special bike rental app was a mix of, on the one hand, anxiety that it might not work properly and a positive feeling of what they were using that app for. Some special apps were special despite having no aesthetic appeal. For instance, participant 27 noted that FitNotes, one of their special fitness apps, was really ugly. Participants mentioned that several social media and gaming apps were special, but also felt addictive. Participant 48, for instance, thought it was scary how dependent they had become on these apps. Participant 44, on the quote on the slide, gives a more detailed explanation about how some apps can imply a love-hate relationship. The fifth theme is about participants making active choices around the organization of apps on their phone, including their special apps to facilitate intended use. So they might, for instance, place apps in inconvenient locations to not use them too much. They might go for minimalistic and uncluttered organization to keep on track with which apps they want to use and not use. And still participants find it tedious to organize apps in a way that actually facilitate their intended use. This is just a glimpse of our data. Please see the paper for many more examples. But let me highlight a few things that Csikszentmihalyi and Rochberg-Halton helped us see. As suggested in the title of this paper, it's possible to find a part of my life in every single app. And conversely, all aspects of participants' lives seem to be in their apps. The extent of the intertwining of life and smartphones is surprising. It's also clear that apps that are special to participants are often unique to them. The distribution of special apps appear to have a very long tail. We did also not imagine that participants would keep a useless app or delete an application to bid farewell to an old part of their identity or use a bus app to ponder past travels. Photo apps and their ability to help people capture and revisit memories are the killer app when we ask people about special apps. It's not social media or messaging apps. Active choices shape how participants use the apps. Apps can help people become the person they want to be. This happens not only through the content of the app, but also through how it's used and embedded in the organization of participants' phones. In conclusion, it continues to be challenging to understand how smartphones has changed communication and social life. To remedy this, we have used Csikszentmihalyi and Rochberg-Halton's framework and shown how it offers a new and useful way to study smartphone use. We've made our data more than 325,000 words, publicly available, and you can find many more details in the paper at the URL on the slide. Thank you for your attention.